All right, ask us your silly questions while I'm in this depressive mood, Pat.
All right, stiff upper lip, Preston. And 3, 2, 1. How you gonna die?
Welcome to Drafted. I'm your host, Daniel Prentice, and as always, I am joined by my dear friend and co-host, Preston Thompson. Preston, how are you doing tonight, and what are you drinking, my friend?
I'm okay, Dan, but I gotta start off by saying this. Because the folks who listen to the show have already seen the title. There's no point in getting around it. I told our guest minutes before we started recording that this might be my least favorite premise we've ever done.
Really?
I think it's just, I have a strange relationship with this particular topic, so I've already drank a lot. I'm going to drink some more during the show, and it may lead us into some places that I'm excited to explore, but I'm like, I have an energy about it that, yeah, we're going to find out. We're going to find out together.
Sure.
We're going to take a journey together.
Sure, I think it's safe to say this will have potentially one of the weirdest energies in the history of the program.
You just want to put out like a giant content warning? Just like, content warning. Probably skip this one. Not even for like a particular group of people. Just maybe not. Maybe not this one.
I think it'll be fine. Are you drinking anything? You said you've had a couple of drinks before the show. Are you drinking anything for the show?
It started with gin and tonic, and then it went to gin. So, gin. Tinkerman's gin, which is really good, and I will let you try some when you're here. Oh,
okay. Yeah, that's coming soon. That's a week from today or less than, because I'll see you in 6 days. That's pretty exciting. But I think that there's no better guest for this episode than the one we have on for you this week.
That I would actually agree with. This is the chance to rescue this. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's no shock. I mean, it was his idea. Let's be frank. It was his idea to do this. But before we do reveal the bracket, let us get on Mr. Patrick Stegemoeller onto the show. Pat, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, guys. My intros
just
get
coming in and dropping
weirder
bombs,
and
baby.
weirder every time I come on the show. I think the initial idea for this was best one-hit wonder. And
yeah, that was my thrown out proposal.
And then I made a counter offer.
Came back. Yeah, counter offer. I like the counter offer.
When I told my girlfriend Lisa what we were going to be draft bracketing tonight, she says, "Well, I would have really liked to listen to the one-hit wonder idea." So
we can do that eventually.
Make sure they do that at some point.
Yeah, don't worry, Lisa. We'll do that next March, or maybe we'll sprinkle in some brackets throughout the regular season as well. Pat, you had surgery or something today, so you're like on anesthesia, right? Are you allowed to drink tonight?
I had an endoscopy about. Well, I regained consciousness from the anesthesia.
Wow.
About 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
So
is everything okay?
I had to fast and I couldn't drink water beforehand.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah. It's like every couple of years they have to snake a tube down there, just make sure I can still eat gluten.
Okay. What's the verdict?
We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
All right. I think just go ahead and keep eating it for the time being.
How important is it to you to be able to keep eating gluten? Like, are you gonna be devastated if you don't get the?
I am a professional pizza and pasta maker and reviewer. That's how I make my money. So I will be forced.
That's tough.
to...
How you make that bread? Maybe.
So are you allowed to drink tonight?
I am not supposed to be drinking tonight, but
let's not do that then.
In
I knew there was a button
honor of the specter of death that looms over this episode, I'm polishing off a hard seltzer right here.
Okay. And that was being.
So now we've added like an extra element of
Yeah.
a subscribers only, like actually the worst way to die
Plot twist.
on a podcast.
He died. Yeah.
So a little tension. This is Chekhov's hard seltzer, introduced early on, and we'll see if it comes back over the course of the show.
Would it be a cruel twist of fate if, like, you were totally fine to keep eating gluten, but then, like, the reaction of the hard seltzer with the anesthesia made you allergic to it or something somehow?
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny though.
You kind of have to appreciate the humor of it, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, worth the bit,
more than you'd
sure.
be mad. Yeah, I am drinking a whiskey lemonade. Nothing fancy. It's just like, Minute Maid lemonade with whiskey that I had. So I went rock climbing today, and this isn't a total aside, but for the second time, I went for the first time last week, and my arms like barely work right now.
Yeah, dude, that shit'll get you. I had the same experience, and I'm not sure it's for me. So I respect you for going twice.
I actually, it's fun. It's a real sense of accomplishment, like when you're able to complete a round. Pat, have you ever been rock climbing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also not very. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm not very good at it. Maybe also.
I'm not very good. I'm not very good at it. I don't think anyone, unless you're like, unless maybe you like work out specifically for it ahead of time, like you're already in really good shape, then maybe you could be good at it like when you first try. But I think most people probably.
Or if you were like raised on the streets of Agrabah, or something like that.
Yeah, or by gorillas.
Yeah.
Oh, that would do it. Yeah.
Like,
all right.
Like Tarzan, just a real natural.
Which Disney prince would be best at rock climbing, having never done it before? Welcome to Drafted.
I like this new theme of our show where we're throwing out topics of like what the show's going to be like in 10 years. We've done that the last couple episodes. We need to start writing them down. Yeah,
we get ideas all the time, and we appreciate all of them because it's hard for us to come up with how many episodes have we done? Probably like upwards of 60, probably more than that by now. Over 60, I would think.
Really?
And that's like a lot of like random weird things.
You've done over 60 episodes of this?
Well, this is season 4, so.
And
so
we
you've
do
done like 20 a
10
season?
a season plus 3 holiday episodes, maybe.
Yeah. I think we're probably close to that.
So we're getting up there. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is, we're very appreciative of all the draft ideas, but sometimes we'll get ones that are like, yeah, that's a season 6 idea.
It's for the Twilight
that's a
years.
Season 8 idea, yeah.
The unreleased VHS tapes.
I don't think we're quite to that idea. But this
somehow
episode,
this didn't make it in there.
Yeah, this episode is going to push that limit, I think, a little bit. Preston, we've talked around it. The people have seen the title of the episode, but why don't you just lay it out? What are we bracketing tonight?
We're deciding as a group the worst way to die. But here's the thing. This list, it's important here that Daniel and I, as the hosts of the show, where we can't willingly leave at any time, have plausible deniability over the content of this list. So it came strictly from one mind of Sir Patrick Stegemoeller.
Look, it's an un-editorialized list of ideas from Patrick.
And I've only read about a quarter of it, so I'm kind of excited, but also blameless too.
I assumed that you were going to Google like 50 most common causes of death in the United States in the year 2021.
Yeah, falling or
right, and then like seed them accordingly, and it was just going to be like various cancers. So I figured it would be appropriate to liven it up a little. And I think we should say here, this is not a comprehensive.
No.
Like, what is the worst way to die? Like much like March Madness, not all of the schools get in there.
Yeah.
Maybe on this list there were some really weird conference tournaments or something,
and sometimes even ones you would expect, like UNC, don't make it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd say this is what is the worst way to die of the, I believe we have 18 methods here.
Yeah, that was my real complaint with the list. I think it's an incredible list, but the 16 or the 18 really threw me.
Well, I didn't think it was going to be. I didn't think you were just going to use it. I thought you like had your list of like normie ways to die, and I was like, hey, I'm about to go to bed. You know what's going to really help me, like, tuck away to dreamland for restful hours of sleep before this, like, surgical event tomorrow? Why don't I just go stream of consciousness for 10 minutes on ways one could die? And then I'll just send it over to them, and they'll, like, fold a couple into their pre-existing list.
I would say I'm, like, the director of the show, I think would be, like, one of my titles. And I saw the list and was like, yeah, that seems fine. I didn't count them.
Baby.
I didn't count them until I put them in the bracket. So, it seemed like 16. So I thought we were just working with 16.
You're like a Tarantino script going around, right? Like, who's going to get that and be like, no, I'm going to edit. No.
Yeah.
You say yes or no.
You see gold on the page, and you run with it, Pat. You should understand that.
This is way overhyped at this point.
No. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go Tarantino, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But so we will have a slightly shorter and different format of our patron only.
I wouldn't promise shorter.
Yeah. This is going to take as long as it's going to take.
Maybe not shorter, but fewer matchups to discuss. Well, how about we say that, all right?
Sure.
But we are about to head over to the patron-only round. Thank you so much for all of our patrons. We love you guys so much. We appreciate all your support. Everyone else, you're going to have to listen to a commercial break, and you'll be back with us for the round of 16.
All right, Dan, real quick, a little mini draft of Patreon perks that our Patreon subscribers get. Go ahead.
Ooh. Okay. My first pick is going to be getting ad-free episodes that also have bonus content that normal plebes never get to hear.
Well, the best thing we've ever done for our patrons, which I'm fine to get on second pick here, is the actual cocktail tasting that we did with Pat, you, and myself, where we put our money where our mouth is and we drank our actual cocktails that we drafted on the show. You've got to see that video because I'm a little ashamed it's out there, but boy, go find it.
Yeah, Preston keeps referencing that too. Like, it's changed his life, that episode, so you got to check it out. And a big shout out to the people who are already supporting us on Patreon. We got Adriax, Sarah M. Prentice. I wonder who she's related to. Lindsay Sue, Ben Liska, Bobby Duggleby, Tim Votang, Shark Lady, Cody Glazer, and MC Prentice. Boy, a whole lot of Prentices on there. Shout out to the Prentice clan.
The Thompsons got to step it up.
Yeah, we really got to get on that. But yeah, thanks so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon already. You guys aren't hearing this ad, so I don't know why we even did this bit. But, if you want to know that other people are hearing your name next time, join us and support us on Patreon. We'd love you a lot. Okay, so we welcome back our regular listeners who we decidedly love less than our patron listeners.
Wow.
Just a quick refresher.
Okay.
Just kidding. But not really, to be honest. We are working here now, round of 16, worst ways to die. Seed was totally randomized. We had a couple play-in matchups that we discussed at length in the patron-only segment. But now we're working just pure random seeding of what Pat sent us as his suggestions for the worst ways to die. Our first matchup, we have 1 seed burned at the stake versus 17 seed kicked to death. Okay,
question for the game master. Yeah. If you're burned at the stake, I mean, did you do something cool? Like, are you like a witch or something?
Like be a woman?
Yeah. Hey, that is cool, okay?
Yeah.
It is pretty cool. But do you is there
It means you're probably not a witch.
Got it, because it worked.
Right.
That's true. You did die.
Yeah.
Great point. That actually does color things a little bit.
It's also not necessarily I don't know.
What if you're a sacrifice?
Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, She did some cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool.
I don't think she thought it was very cool, if I had to guess.
No.
She
was like, this is going to do numbers for my biography, though. You know what I mean?
This is the full completion of my narrative arc.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't there debate about how painful it is to be burned alive?
Who's the reference point?
Well, I remember like
it's
I've
like you
read...
choke to death before the fire kills you. Is that the idea?
Well, often yes. Like the smoke is what kills you rather than the fire, and like if you're in a house fire, not being able to breathe. But like in terms of like actually being lit on fire, because I remember reading, because you know that there's like that famous photo of like the Tibetan monk who protests by setting himself on fire.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the last time we did this and we were like speculating about things, so then we're like, oh, we'll do it for real on the Patreon with our cocktails.
Please, no.
Yeah, we'll do it for the patrons at the end of the season. We'll do it.
Yeah, the first time we hit 50,000
getting burned alive, not that bad. And so I
Daniel will light himself on fire.
Well, so I remember reading that apparently, like when you're on fire, your nerves go pretty quick. So it's not like an elongated sense of being on fire.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean,
I'm sort of buying that, actually.
Yeah, that's the thing. I buy it. I don't know for sure, but I do buy it.
And worth noting here, the 1 seed in this case means nothing. These are all random.
Right. It's completely random.
So I'm gonna say kick to death. I think you're making some good arguments, Dan.
Yeah, I think it's kick to death too. That's like a
also like
long.
Most people burned at the stake
process.
are recorded in some sort of history book, right? Like most of them.
And if you're burned at the stake, you probably got the opportunity to like say some last words. Whereas if you're getting kicked to death, you like your diaphragm's not going to be able to expand enough to get those last words out.
Very public forum too.
Right, your last words are just like.
And the thing about being kicked to death is there's no way that people kicking you to death are doing it to like kill you quickly. You know what I mean? Like they're not because they're not.
Well, again, given the situation I described in the Patreon. It's your peers doing it so that they can get their rations because the state has a mandate that if anyone says anything, in contravention of
but then that's
the greater
better.
good,
your sacrifice is for the greater good.
But it's not your sacrifice.
They might not be enthusiastic about it. They could just be like, let's try to, we liked Greg. Let's put him out of his misery.
It'd be better if it was like your high school lacrosse team. That was kicking you to death.
I just want
fulfilling a lifelong destiny.
You're also on the ground, probably. You're getting kicked to death.
Which is not a good place to be.
Not a good place to die.
I just want to say, if it ever gets to the point where I am begging for someone to put me out of my misery by killing me, I plead with you, do not do it by kicking me to death.
Okay.
There are other
Is there a preferred way you'd like me to take this on? I'm assuming it's going to be me.
Just something that's quick and painless. That's all I ask.
Okay. Like getting burned at the stake.
For my own mercy, my own benefit, don't do it by kicking me to death. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to throw you into space.
I will say, getting burned at the stake seems pretty uncool. And like historically speaking, I think they've really recorded that like the screams you hear of someone getting burned at the stake are like nothing you've ever heard before and will haunt you forever. Even
that's cool
even
to
like
have been the one to make that noise though, right? Because
maybe it'd be more haunting for the people around you.
You could be a sound bit that like gets played in video games for decades, and then you're
like a Wilhelm scream from it. Yeah.
You become the Wilhelm scream, but of the guy on fire.
All right, so are we in agreement here? It's kick to death.
I'm voting for kick to death.
Yes.
All right, kick to death. Yeah.
Okay, next we have the 8 seed. And here I just have at the hand of your own monstrous creation versus 9 seed bees.
Just bees?
Bees.
How many bees would it take?
I mean, if you're allergic.
That's a good question.
Just one.
2? Maybe 1?
I am picturing a swarm of bees. And I honestly don't know there's much to discuss here. I think it's easily bees.
What was the other option again? Help me out.
At the hand of your own monstrous creation, Frankenstein's death.
You take that, extrapolate that as long as you'd like.
Yeah, I'm honestly impressed, right? I'm like, wow, he's all grown up, doing his own murders.
Yeah, in a way that's kind of fulfilling, right?
No, you'd be so upset.
Papa says no. No. Papa said no. Oh God. Oh, Papa said no.
Right? Like all the shit you've gone through to bring this thing to life, you know?
And then it turns out.
Yeah.
And then it's still ungrateful.
It proves it was like worth it. You gave it agency. You gave it life.
No, here's the thing.
After you.
If your own monstrous creation kills you, you brought it on yourself.
That's true.
Yeah, and that sucks.
You didn't bring the bees.
You know what people don't love to do, famously, given memes?
Die?
So, reap what they've sown.
Me reaping. Yes, right. Yes! Fuck yes! Sowing. Oh man, this sucks. Yeah. That's fair. I still think it's bees. Getting stung by a bee hurts bad. Being stung by a lot of bees to death, I think that just sounds so painful to me.
The quantity that it would take seems rough.
I think in a very large part of me, if I were to be killed by my own monstrous creation, would in that moment understand and accept that it was my own doing and that I deserved it. And I think that would, in a way, put me at peace.
What if what you created was a hyper intelligent bee species that was you're
like those wasps from the Hunger Games?
I'm going to save the bees with this genetically engineered bee situation.
I was trying to save the bees,
resistant to bee fungus or whatever.
You program organic bees to save the bee population, and they eventually work out that the best way to save the population of bees is to destroy all the humans,
starting with you.
So they just go around murdering, and they start with you. They start with Papa. Papa, we have.
But then that would become a mercy kill, right? At that point, it's a mercy kill. It's that Papa won't see us. Why am I saying Papa? You won't see your creation kill all of humanity. They'd kill you first, and you don't know what they have left to wreak, shall we say?
I still think just on the raw pain scale, it's bees.
Yeah.
Oh my God, bees, not the bees.
Yeah, I think I'm voting bees too.
You're voting bees too? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a landslide. This could have been a 116. This could have been a 116 or a 215 if it had been seeded. With intention.
Okay, this next matchup, I want to get the wording exactly right on this. We have 12 seed trapped in one of those stripper cakes versus 5 seed whilst tweeting.
What does the tweet look like? I just got one thing to say. End of tweet.
Well, presumably you never hit send.
Oh. So what's your thinking here, Pat? What happens when you die whilst tweeting?
I take it in any way you want. Could be
people who find you, pull it up, and you're tweeting at J.K. Rowling saying you're actually making some pretty good points. And they find you and they're like, oh God, he was terrible the whole time. We just didn't know he had this burner Twitter account.
I mean, it could be that. It could be thread of me tweeting while driving. And you only got about four deep.
Some pictures of this great American roadscape.
Oh my God. You know that exists somewhere, right? Someone has 100% started a tweet thread of them driving.
Tweet number 3, it started to rain real hard. This guy doesn't quit.
Oh boy. While I appreciate the comedy of just a very vague whilst tweeting, I think it has to be stripper cake. Because, I mean, listen, whilst tweeting, you could die anyway whilst tweeting. Anyway. You could die, by having sex with the most attractive human being alive.
Whilst
and you're just you're going to tweet about it. What now?
Whilst
you're tweeting about it in mid coitus?
Yeah. Whilst coitus.
Deserve to die.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm just saying, it could happen. If you're trapped in a stripper cake, now to be honest, the stripper cake isn't that big of a factor for this. for me in this, but just being trapped somewhere until you starve.
But you are wearing like scandalous clothing. You're in a very public space where somebody's definitely going to come check on you nearly immediately, which is
again not necessarily. It just says in a stripper cake. It doesn't say that you're a stripper in a stripper cake.
I think the inference is that you're using the stripper cake for its intended purpose.
Like you got booked, but then they like had a last minute change of plans and they like forgot you were in there, and now you're like in the back of a warehouse, but they like stacked something on top of it.
Or you're the one who got hired to build the cake and you accidentally built it around you and didn't leave yourself a way out. Right. Maybe that could be it too.
That's a little bit like the hand of your own monstrous creation in a sense.
I created this monster cake.
I think a non-stripper setting is far more likely here, because if you get trapped, in a stripper setting, they know you're in there, right? Someone knows you're in there, and presumably they'd at least be able to like get things to you.
But there's some element of being in there while you're backstage or like being rolled into the room or whatever, right? Like you're in there for some allotment of time,
right? And maybe that's when you get your pills.
Also, what if it just doesn't open and then everybody's sort of like clawing at it to try and get it open, but it like doesn't open?
Right. How do the stripper cakes work? Isn't it actually cake?
Oh, you're visiting next week, right? We'll do it then.
Okay. I admittedly have pretty.
It's like a very public version of being buried alive.
I'm voting whilst tweeting, because that's okay. I mean I don't tweet to begin with.
I was gonna say you're not on Twitter anymore.
Yeah. That would make if I knew that someone died while tweeting, I'd be like, good, they were a waste of life. You know what I mean? Like if that was
Jesus.
Not just because they are on Twitter, but because like if they died because they were like, gotta get off this last tweet while this house is on fire. Couldn't like
house is straight fire right now.
Right? Yeah.
Don't know if I'll make it out.
Literally me, and it's like the dog, like in the "This is fine" meme thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go trapped in a stripper cake here. I think just being trapped in a small place, like without anyone being able to help you, is worse than any kind of random setting or factor that could kill you while you're tweeting.
Well, and yeah, a smarter mind than me can come up with some absolutely awesome tweets to send off like during death.
What if you're like what if you're tweeting out your like an all-time tweet?
Yeah.
Like your magnum opus.
Like I'm in heaven now, and it turns out the birds were actually never real. Like you could just tweet that out and then be like, he was actually dying while he said that. That might actually carry some credibility.
Yeah. So, Preston, are you voting stripper cake as well?
Yes.
Okay, so stripper cake moves on 2 votes to 1. Okay, this one is interesting.
Oh boy.
We have the 4 seed drowning because the love of your life wouldn't share space on a floating door, and that one feels like a specific reference to something.
Something, but I can't remember what. Probably Avatar.
We have 13 seed grappling with your evil clone / identical twin, and your wife has a gun and needs to shoot one of you and chooses wrong.
Whoa. Wait. Whoa. One more time for the people at home, Dan.
Sure.
I thought you were going for a Prestige style thing, Pat, but then you gave it a lovely little twist that honestly would have made Prestige better.
So just one more time, and this is exactly how Pat wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Grappling with your evil clone / identical twin, and your wife has a gun and needs to shoot one of you and chooses wrong.
Wow. But like...
I would like to... This is another, questionable science thing maybe, but I have read or heard that even if Jack could have fit on the floating door, it would not have mattered because he would have died of hypothermia. Like, he did not die from drowning.
But why would Rose have not died from hypothermia?
I think because she one, I think she would have died probably, but 2, you could argue she spent much less time in the water.
Wouldn't she be less likely to die if she had a warm body next to her?
I was gonna say that's like the number one thing they tell you to do if you have a threat of hypothermia is to.
I don't think either body at that point was particularly warm, but
but the combined exchange of heat at least would help. And if the implication is Rose made it, then unless you're saying she actually did die and the epilogue is a dream, which is an interesting take, then I actually think they both could have made it for sure.
I think they should at least try, right?
Yes. And the idea that Pat's saying here is that just scoot over just a little.
Right. It's specifically not exactly the Titanic situation, I suppose.
Right.
In that
because you're sort of asking to get on.
The causal effect here is because they won't share.
Right. Which is
or even try to.
Right.
That's in the extended edition. Yeah.
Fair.
Actually, this is an interesting pairing that got randomly paired because both are
because in both sis's
death by the lover.
Spouse. Yeah, in both cases, you're actually coming to the realization that the love maybe wasn't real. I mean, the twin one is almost more haunting because you're like, what makes me a person? What gives me me?
Right.
And the person who I spent the most amount of time with can't find that.
Yeah.
That's rough. I'm going to have to think about that for a bit.
And it's tough for her.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
the other one is not tough for her because she's going to be totally fine.
I think the evil clone twin thing is... Well, here's the question. Does she find out after the fact that she's killed the wrong one?
Right. Is it you've got a tattoo that they don't, but the tattoo is covered by the hands or whatever, and she's
right.
Or is
Evil
it just
clone is 100% playing it off that she killed the right person.
Right.
Oh, sure.
Identical twin, maybe not.
You think the twin's going to be you failed?
No, not necessarily, but I think it's a given that the evil clone tries to play it off. Depending on the situation with, your twin.
But if it's an evil clone situation, now she's trapped in some life of gaslighting herself and then never quite knowing,
Yeah.
Every morning
That's
she wakes up and she's a little bit
never sure.
Is it really Kevin?
Yeah, the wife would almost certainly be driven mad, right? Regardless of whether she killed the right person or not.
Whereas Doorwife is
I don't know if you guys have
seen
The Prestige, but we're just reenacting the movie right now. This is what happens.
Doorwife is going to be spending the rest of her life being he was going to die of hypothermia anyways, so whatever.
But also no witnesses. You can sort of construct your own narrative, right? Yeah. Be listen, only one of us was going to make it for sure. You weren't there.
And then on the actual experiencer, as our side, I don't have a twin, but I know twins experience a pretty intense closeness with their twin pretty often. I feel being in a life or a situation, directly involving your twin would be pretty rough.
You know what also sounds
rough?
One is drowning.
Yeah, drowning. Okay. Here's the thing. He doesn't drown. Drowning is not why Jack dies.
Right. He sinks because he's frozen solid.
He's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, he's dead. I think my vote's going to be for the twin confusion, as I will call it.
I will say the exact wording here is drowning because the love of your life wouldn't share space on a floating door.
I know, but with I said I didn't want to editorialize, but there is another, not to spoil, there is another one that directly involves drowning.
It's true.
If we don't change this to maybe not necessarily drowning, then maybe we're a little repetitive here, and I can't live with that.
I'm voting drowning with the door because now you're not only are you drowning, but you're kind of pissed. You're this fucking for seriously? Really now?
But I mean, the reference, the clear Titanic reference here, he was pretty fine with it, wasn't he? He was pretty okay with it. I think if you convince yourself, I think it's pretty easy to convince yourself that, it wouldn't work. Hell, I've done it. I've already convinced myself that, Jack would have died anyway. So if
I'm in that water, I'm convincing myself that there's plenty of room on there.
There's so much room.
When there's like one piece of pie left that you're splitting with your significant other, you're convincing yourself that it's shareable. You know what I mean? You're like, no, that's 2 servings of pie. I think we're gonna split that up. Like, you're gonna give me some of that, right? When it's life or death, I'm definitely like, scooch over, please, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Then we'll make moves from here.
We're different people, Pat. We're different people.
You're just so gallant.
I think it's easier to convince yourself that you're making a sacrifice for your loved one, in the Titanic situation, and just like being desperate for your wife to kill the right person. I just like that. Just seems like a really awful situation to be your last situation. Like, one, you're fighting either your fucking twin or your evil clone, which also sounds traumatic as hell, and then like begging your wife to pick the right person to shoot. Just seems like just a really
but you're just
spot.
getting shot, and then you're like then you just kind of die.
You're
not like slowly sinking to your icy depth.
This is my actual take on death, and what would be a bad death. Okay, it's not so much about like how you die; it's like what you're feeling when you die. And I don't.
Maybe that's
like
what lasts forever.
Maybe. Let's not think about that.
Maybe you're just trapped in your last emotion.
Jesus, we're not gonna that right. But just being stuck in like, having your last feeling be like being scared or stressed or anxious or anything like that just seems really just bad to me.
Yeah,
so I'm going evil clone, evil twin. Here.
Being upset that the person you thought was the love of your life was like, yeah, well, you drown.
Can I say something real quick?
Please.
I don't think the Titanic actually sank.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll do better. I don't think the Titanic was a real ship.
I would like to compare notes here.
I'll yes and us off the sense of reality. Water, not real.
Not real.
Yeah.
The Atlantic Ocean isn't a thing.
Listen,
it just comes out of pipes? Okay.
How could water be real
Government
when
pipes?
the Earth is flat? It would fall off. It would fall off the Earth.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to get several of these details wrong.
Okay.
JP Morgan Chase owns 2 ships. Right before the Titanic sets off, he makes both ships look a lot like each other, very intentionally and for no apparent reason. Titanic is brand new, is going to run for a long time. He swaps ships with the older one, and then insures it as if it was the Titanic because it's brand new and he'll get a larger insurance payout. 3 hours before the Titanic is supposed to leave port, JP Morgan Chase says, you know what, I'm not going on this boat. He has some of his other ships go out to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where the Titanic is supposed to do a planned sinking, where these 3 other boats are in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for no reason. They're just sitting there waiting to rescue Titanic passengers. That's a reason,
I would say.
On the cloudy night, because of one of the weirdest sort of tidal movements in like 100 years, the Titanic is not where it's supposed to be. The 3 ships are not where they're supposed to be. Titanic does go down. Goes down in a wonderful little blaze of thunder. The SS Carpathia is like sort of nearby, and a lot more people died than they were supposed to, but JP Morgan Chase gets his insurance bailout. The Titanic continues to run under a new name for the next like 70 years.
Follow the money, people.
Just follow the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Okay. After that journey, we're ready for our next matchup. We have being overboard, tangled in a rope that is going to sink the ship, so the captain has to cut you loose and leave you to drown.
Oh no! Wait, what?
Yep, I'll read it one more time. Being overboard, tangled in a rope that is going to sink the ship, so the captain has to cut you loose and leave you to drown. Against, what is technically the 14 seed, accidentally taking a bullet for Hitler.
Accidentally. What are the circumstances that lead up to both of these?
It's bullet for Hitler, right?
I mean, there's an inherent sacrifice that must be made.
There's an inherent honorable death.
And you can even, if you realize what's happening in time, you can do like a dad from Man of Steel situation where you're like, it's okay. cut the rope. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And it'd be great.
This is Pat. This is a Master and Commander reference. Yes.
It happens in Master and Commander. I think it's just a general like shit that happens.
This shit happens all
books
the time.
And movies
right?
about ships reference.
Yeah. Flight attendants come down the aisle and they say the plane's too heavy. One of you's got to go.
Send one out. I really don't want to drown. Is a big thing about me. that I think I'm learning.
It's like a real fun fact.
Yeah.
About Pat is drowning is no go.
That's just always the most. That's just so heartbreaking of a situation,
Yeah, well, I've heard it's extremely painful as well, like to properly drown because like your lungs are just screaming for you to breathe,
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, it doesn't end up. If you were to drown in the open ocean like that, and you're like a full-grown man, like who knows how to swim or whatever, you feel like you should be able to overcome that. There's like something in your head that makes you think, why wouldn't I just be able to keep swimming forever? It's hard to imagine a situation in which you're like too tired to continue to live. That's very bad. If you drown because you're being like pulled under, there's almost more excuse. But yeah, the idea that you're treading water and you're like, this actually doesn't feel too bad. I feel like I could do this for at least like another hour. And then you start to get more tired and it goes south.
I still think it's take a bullet for Hitler.
Accidentally taking a bullet from Hitler, it's probably just like a one and done. You're just walking down the street, and then all of a sudden, like,
there's like a very carefully planned assassination attempt.
Right.
And you're a citizen, and you're like, hey, it's that Hitler fella. I think I'll show him a piece of my mind. And you go up to give him a punch in like 3 years of work.
Also,
from various governments across the world, and you step in front of the sniper bullet.
This is maybe just my interpretation, but the implication here is that like you have gone back in time or something and accidentally take this bullet for Hitler, and then thus like completely change the outcome.
What an amazing episode of television that would be! That they send you back in time to kill Hitler, and it ends up in the time stream that you accidentally
foiled the assassination of Hitler.
That's Daniel. Copyright it. TM, baby. Put it in a movie. Holy shit, that's amazing.
It definitely could be that. I don't think there's a specific implication, but that's one.
That's my interpretation.
One.
That's my interpretation.
What like Quantum Leap? That'd be like a Quantum Leap episode, yeah. I never watched it, but I think that's what they do.
Or isn't there like a more recent show where it's all about people like time traveling to solve crimes or stop crimes or something?
I mean, like Doctor Who, right? Like Loki.
No.
That'd be a particularly Loki thing to do. Maybe not Disney appropriate. Or maybe it actually would be weirdly Disney appropriate. Disney's weird.
What are your votes here, boys?
It's the Hitler one.
Okay. Pat, do you agree?
Yeah, bullet for Hitler.
All right. Bullet for Hitler.
Sounds like a collection of like tragic war poetry. Bullet for Hitler. A collection of 100 lost letters.
My bullet. My bullet for Hitler.
My bullet for Hitler.
It would be a bestseller. Yeah. Okay. Next we have By 1,000 Cuts.
Ugh. Like Death by 1,000 Cuts?
Right.
Death by 1,000 Cuts, yeah, exactly. And then this one, which I think we need to explore a little bit. Accidentally Buried Alive.
I saw that too. The accidentally in there is carrying a heavy load.
Yeah, I am more curious about the implication of an intentional buried alive here.
I think
both are interesting.
It's worth restating that this was not intended to be a comprehensive list. This was.
Oh, I got that.
This was throw some stuff at the wall, see what sticks. They'll take 2 or 3 of these.
No, yeah, I get you. But, like, what is the situation in which you end up being accidentally buried alive?
I mean, this happened all the time back in the day. Like, pronounced dead, but, like, doctors weren't good at their job. And then you, like...
Yeah, they're just, like,
and then you, like,
sick.
wake up, and they find, like, claw marks, like, on the inside of caskets.
That's where the myth of zombies comes from.
Yeah.
They found claw marks on the inside of caskets?
Yeah, where they, like, go to exhume people.
Yeah, it's, like, ones that were, like, not buried very... deep.
Like someone would get like hit on the head and be like, yeah, he's probably dead. Put him in a box, put him in the ground. And then he'd kind of like come to and be like, oh, thank goodness I'm alive. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty tough.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't have Googled it.
Images on the Google.
I wouldn't have Googled it, personally.
Apparently, this happened 4 years ago.
Oh, no.
5 years ago in New Zealand. She was buried alive by mistake. All right.
How did they find out?
I closed out of the window to avoid having just a really shitty weekend.
This reminded me. I think it's like in St. Augustine, in Florida, where there's an old fort and everything, and then like the or maybe it's Civil War. I don't remember. But anyway, there's like in the graveyard there, they would have bells, like for all the graves, so that if someone was improperly buried and they like woke up, they could ring the bell, and then someone could come save them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nifty
So it like
solution.
was a thing, like a not uncommon thing.
Matched up against death by 1,000 cuts, which I think we've all heard of, as an aphorism.
It's a saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has anyone ever... What would it be like?
Pondered it. It makes me think of Everything Everywhere All at Once. When
the paper
like,
cuts. Oh.
When Alpha Waymond has to do the first or the second jump he does by cutting like each of his fingers to the paper cuts. It's like it's an unwatchable scene.
1,000 of
It
those.
is truly unwatchable. Oh no. No.
I still think, boy, man, I don't know. This is such a hard one. I think it's Buried Alive. I think
Buried
it's
Alive is
accidentally
like
Buried
an
Alive.
actual reoccurring nightmare.
And if it's accidental, it's not like no one knows you're down there. If you're intentionally buried alive, there's a chance that someone has like a change of heart and is like,
Could be worse though, because maybe the hopefulness is like actually tragic.
But with hopefulness, you're like, I got to preserve my oxygen. I'm not going to freak out and try to scratch my way out of here. I don't know. Have you guys been practicing your 1-inch punch since you saw Kill Bill 2 in like 7th grade?
No. What is the outcome of the Ryan Reynolds Buried movie? Isn't this called Buried?
You're giving us a lot of credit thinking we've seen that.
How does that happen?
Buried. I never saw it either.
2010 has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh, here we go. The last sentence. Knowing that he has... Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert if you've not seen Buried. It came out in 2010. Knowing that he is not going to be saved, Paul accepts his fate. Brenner profusely apologizes to Paul as the sand finally fills the coffin and he suffocates as the light goes out.
Tough
So he dies.
stuff for your boy.
Well, it would be hard for me to film that scene. That is how much I am afraid of this thing.
Okay, but think of how big of a number 1,000 is.
1,000 is a lot.
big
It's
number.
kind of like beyond our brain's ability to really fully.
It's like if you did
comprehend
100 several times.
Yeah.
I don't know how many number
10
of times,
10 whole
but
times.
lots of times.
Listen, it's a lot. It would hurt a lot, but Buried Alive, it's just such a long, drawn out thing.
Death by 1,000 Cuts is also kind of long and drawn out, though.
The 1,000 cuts could all happen at the same time. I think it's implied that it's like cut by cut by cut by cut by cut.
It would be way more annoying 1,000 cuts because like 200 in, you're like they'll be done soon, and then like
they gotta run out eventually.
Yeah, okay, that does change. Like if it's Death by 1,000 Cuts, but you don't know ahead of time going in that it's Death by 1,000 Cuts, like, well, these guys are cutting me a lot.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of just like
this will be done.
because it's like at no point, like at what point do you think it's going to actually kill you? If it's the kind of thing that would take 1,000 of it to kill you, by like 600, you're like, what's going on here?
These guys are really committed to this.
They've got to get tired eventually, right? They've got to get bored at some point.
One of them got tired and they just rotated another person in. How many people do they have back there?
But in that way though, it's also kind of like a fun game at that point. Like you're kind of seeing like, oh, how much longer do they go? It's like
go. And also like
very fun game.
Blood loss would probably make you lose your feeling at a certain point, and you would sort of be like resigned to it.
Right. It's maybe a little bit like how we all can agree best death is freezing to death, right? Where it's because you just like You feel all warm and fuzzy
Daniel
at the
just
end.
made the same face at the same time.
Look, we all know our dream death, fellas. It's you, a sled dog, and an inability to light a fire, so you just lay down and bask in the warm little afterglow of your light flickering out.
Sure.
Inability to light a fire actually adds a whole element of being really sad about that. Yeah. Like, man, you've lived to the ripe age of insert age here, and you have not figured out how to light a fire.
Well, your hands just got too cold. You know, your fingers got all
locked
up, and the dog is there. And anyways,
and the tinder got wet somehow.
I'm gonna vote accidentally buried alive, even though death by 1,000 cuts would suck.
Yeah, I think in a different matchup, both of these go very far.
Yeah.
So we were done dirty a little bit by the random.org seeding.
No longer a sponsor. Right. Get out of here, random.org.
Hey, they're great at determining draft order, okay?
Jesus, we still have 2 more first round matchups.
Yeah. Hopefully the rounds after this first round will go a little bit more quickly since we've kind of
Right.
Nah.
broken them all down.
We deserve to hash this out.
Okay, next therapy? We have in some ways it is.
This is what they do in therapy. They bring you in and be like, "Hey, what's your name again?" And what's your absolute worst fear? How much have you experienced death in your life, and can we make you experience it some more through exposure therapy?
And we are sponsored by BetterHelp.com.
Please get some, because God knows we're not doing it for you.
All right, this is somehow this is an episode about death, and that was the darkest thing that's been said on this show.
What, that we don't like? Wait, hold on. No, don't hold on. Please keep going.
Okay, our next matchup, we have 10 seed skydiving for the first time versus drinking the Kool-Aid and not going to secret cult heaven.
Everybody else gets to go?
Oh, I had not considered that. I just considered of course you're not going to heaven because.
But you were
Kool-Aid
you were invited at the last minute by your friend Steve, so you weren't actually a true believer, and all the true believers did get to go.
Oh my god,
that's complicated.
That could be your last thought.
What if I actually don't buy
it? Consider that before drinking the Kool-Aid would be my suggestion. These honestly are both kind of low for me in the overall. Pat, I'm curious, what is why the first time skydiving inclusion?
Again, I'm going to refer you to this was a 10-minute stream of consciousness as I went to bed last night.
Pat's anesthesiologist.
What are 15 to 20 ways one could die? Well,
my real question is for dying your first time skydiving, is it worse than dying at any other time skydiving? Is my real question.
Yeah, I think so. Because you'd never got to skydive successfully. It'd be one thing if it's he died doing what he loved. That's how he would have wanted to go. He loved the rush.
It's that's a Steve Irwin death, right? Man. But Steve Irwin probably knew it wasn't the Stingray's fault,
Right.
Fair.
Yeah, if you got skydiving your first time, you're probably with... It means you've got the it's the partner jump, right? Because I feel the first time you're with a guy usually, right? There's the expert and you're strapped to them, so it means that they were drunk or something and fucked up,
or just your chute failed.
They came unattached.
Both of all 4 chutes failed, and he's "Whoa, I've never heard of this before. Jesus. What a historical anomaly we're about to be." Splat.
People will write about us.
Right.
In the manual.
The pro would be infuriatingly calm about the whole thing. And you're just we're about to fucking die. And he'd be well, I'm Steve Irwin basically. So it's not the ground's fault.
He's living his Steve Irwin moment, but you're dying for the first time. I'd do it, yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
True. You're the Stingray.
I think if you don't go to Kool-Aid heaven and the others did, I think that's worse though.
Well, I'm not saying that. Maybe you do.
I don't think you know that either, but...
The Kool-Aid one to me, regardless of whether or not is one of the worst ones on this list to me. Because it's based on this idea that you are so bought in to whatever's happening, and your last thought is, it wasn't real. Your last thought is but what if we're wrong? And then you die. And that's the actual horrifying thing about it, is you were absolutely sold, and then the second you take that step, you're like, your regret is too short-lived. You know what I mean?
But maybe not. You might be like we're going all the way, and then that's
the thing. I have never been in a cult. Okay.
Interesting tidbit.
I feel like if you got to the point where you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you are 100% bought in. There is not a glimmer or a hint of doubt that you could be wrong. What's our vote here? I'm kind of torn. I want to hear what you guys say first.
I'm going to vote skydiving because heights flying is my biggest fear of like things I actually like can encounter in the world. Whereas I could see myself committing to the bit enough to do the Kool-Aid thing.
I sort of have like faith in myself that if I learned halfway through skydiving I was going to die, that I would take time to like relish in the beauty of the earth. You know what I mean? I would not, but I would like to believe that I would.
Sure.
Mine's definitely the Kool-Aid one for the reasons I laid out.
Okay. I would never skydive. I have no interest in it. So dying my first time trying would really be bullshit. Because, like, yeah, you know what's coming. You're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? I did it. And I'm actually one of the people that fucking
dies. You're probably doing it because a friend wanted to do it. And it's
I would be so
dream,
pissed.
You're, like, supporting them.
I would be so pissed. Yeah, I would be so pissed. And I know if I was in a cult and I got to the point where I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I just know, like, I have no doubts. Like, I'm fully in. So I'm going first time skydiving. Okay, final matchup of the first round. Finally, Jesus, it's gonna be the longest show in the history of longest episode in the history of the show. We have
these are complicated feelings we're working through. It deserves to be very long, you know.
It's true. We have 2 seed Struck by Lightning versus 18 seed Choking on Your Favorite Food. This one is easy to me. I think being struck by lightning, if it kills you immediately, and wouldn't. I don't think it would really hurt you. I think you'd just be dead immediately.
It's also like a metaphor for how unlucky you are, like that you use in your day to day. And I think people give you a lot of credit for that, right? Like nobody's going to be like, wow, what an idiot. But if you choke because you ate too many chicken wings too quickly, they're going to be like, what an absolute dummy. But if you get struck by lightning, like that's just like, man, giveth
I guess
and
it
taketh
depends.
away.
Like if
you know
you were still out playing golf in the middle of the lightning storm,
That's fair.
I don't think that most people who die from getting struck by lightning die right away. I think they die over the course of several painful minutes, if not hours.
I don't really. But do you get like cool superpowers during those minutes?
Potentially.
I think it maybe depends on what you mean by struck by lightning. There are people that are like struck by lightning that aren't directly struck by lightning. I'm thinking you're directly hit by a fucking bolt of lightning and you're just out. You're dead.
I don't know that much about it.
You're sort of right, Pat, actually. Looking at the National Weather Service, it's sort of like a split decision that a lot of people die a few days later once they're resuscitated, but they have irreversible brain damage.
Just don't resuscitate me, all right? And we're fine.
Yeah, DNR. If I'm struck by lightning, definitely DNR. This is for the record. For everybody listening.
The cover image for this episode should be all 3 of us signing DNRs and like giving big thumbs up.
Yeah, the graphic is going to be each of our names, and it's going to be acceptable ways to die.
Right.
It's going to just be like our favorite stuff.
Yeah, for transparency's sake, Struck by Lightning was the first one on the list, sort of setting up the rest as a kind of like, okay, that's like a reasonable way to die.
I think it's kind of a cool way to die, assuming it's not too painful.
I'm gonna go choking on favorite food for reasons discussed in the Patreon. Brief encapsulation: the betrayal of trust that you had with that food is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree too. Okay,
what's the worst food to choke on? Not just your favorite or your least favorite. What's the worst one? Is it like something sharp?
Honestly, your immediate suggestion of mashed potatoes is pretty bad.
Yeah, I did say in the Patreon that mashed potatoes are my least favorite food, which choking on that would be bad. I think I said back then, like, scientists may reclassify that as drowning instead, depending on the nature of the potatoes.
Pop out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does bring us to the end of our first full round of the bracket. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back to finish up the show. All right, we are back. We have our first matchup of the Elite Eight, Kicked to Death versus Bees.
Wow. Strong.
Wow. Two titans.
Both bad, for sure.
Both
I think
pretty
it's
bad.
Bees, though. I think it's Bees.
What are the odds if you're getting kicked to death that you get kicked in the head at a certain point, you sort of lose consciousness, and then the rest happens without your really
could totally happen.
Yeah, I think fairly high.
Especially as Pat has laid out, you're being circled by all of your peers.
You know what this is making me think of, though, which is like one of the most traumatic movie scenes for me, is the scene in Casino where Joe Pesci and his brother get beaten to death by baseball bats, and then they're not dead yet, and they get buried. That's all I can think of when we discuss this.
Okay, but like, how many kicks would it take?
Death by 1,000 kicks.
I think it might take more than 1,000.
No. For death? Listen, if somebody's going full force.
A lot of variables here. Okay,
so Daniel, let's just consider for a second that it's me and Pat, and
we're
let's
kicking
go with
you.
Charlie and Keith, and
I'd like to think all of you would hold back a little, and it would take a lot of kicks.
It would take a very long time. Our hearts wouldn't be in it. It would be kind of like shuffling you to death.
Yeah,
but like I can kick good. So
put that on a t-shirt.
And here's Preston. He can kick good.
I can kick real
Here's
good.
cousin Preston. He's the best kicker in the whole family of any of the cousins.
Tell you, you get close enough, you gonna feel it, and you gonna feel it for days.
Listen, I'm not saying it would be enjoyable to kick to death. I just think being stung by a bee.
Both of these are kind of funny, though, right? like something inherently a little funny. You heard
true.
Like, oh my God, how did Jeremy die? Kicked to death. What?
How do we end up in a situation where like 9 people were?
How did Antonio die? Bees.
Bees.
That's the thing. We're all assuming that it's bees stinging us to death, but technically,
it could be anything.
It's just bees.
It could be eating a bowl full of bees and choking.
Yeah, it could be like the bees fly inside your body and just fill you up until you explode.
It's like if you played that scene from The Mummy, but in reverse.
Yeah.
Where they're just all going inside.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't want that.
Yeah. Seems pretty horrible, right? I'm voting bees.
I'm going to vote bees.
Okay. MPV for kick to death, or are you also voting bees?
No, I'm absolutely voting bees.
Okay. Next, we have the trapped in a stripper cake versus grappling with your evil clone or twin, and then your wife chooses to shoot the wrong person.
That's just so bad. It's so bad. It's so complicated. You're just like okay, in a lot of these cases we're talking about physical desperation where you're like, oh God, get me out of this water, or get me out of this coffin, or whatever like that. This is emotional desperation. Like, please see me. I am me. I need to know that you can see me and not just my physical appearance. And then it doesn't work. That is like a whole nother level of being destroyed.
Yeah, it's bad.
Trapped in a stripper cake, though, also very bad.
Also very bad.
Here's the thing. I think there's no denying it would suck to die in a stripper cake. All right, let's be clear about that.
Be a real bummer for the bachelorette party that I'm going to come tumbling out of when they finally pry the thing open.
They've got to all give written statements to the police. And
it takes all of them to like open, like get the hinge open or whatever, and then my lifeless corpse that is just bloated from taking too many Xannies or whatever I'm using at the time.
And then they gotta figure out which one of them has to call for the refund.
Oh my God.
Like, listen, I hate to say it, but when he arrived, he was dead. So like, we're going to need our $250 back.
Here's my question, though, okay? Don't you think at a certain point when you realize you're trapped in there and you're going to die in there that you kind of, like, find the humor of the situation?
No.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not.
I think part of me would be like, this is so ridiculous. It's kind of funny.
I mean, I do think if I'm dying trapped in a stripper cake, it's probably, as I've alluded to, because I'm on some potent cocktail of uppers and downers and sidewaysers that have got me like, I'm gonna live forever, brother. I can't wait to show the thunder to these ladies once I get out of here. I'm gonna give them the show of their lives, brother.
I've been working on these moves all week.
I'm gonna prance like an erotic stallion across the rainbow of their dreams.
I made them all sign waivers before I got in the cake.
So see, that sounds kind of fun in a lot of ways. Therefore, I think that it's worse if you're
no cake can hold me.
Oh, that. So okay, no cake can hold you. So you're saying like the reason you're trapped is because you try to do some Houdini shit. You're like, make it hard to get out of.
Potentially,
no super cake can hold me in.
Right, that's part of my bit. That's part of my bit. Sexy escape artist. Yeah. Like I'm gonna get out of these chains so I can I'm gonna get out of these handcuffs so I can put you in some. You know, like that kind of thing.
Right.
You've just invented a new genre of stripping.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, that would be pretty humiliating. The stripper cake death just continues to take more and more twists and turns. But I still think it's worse to be killed by your own wife because she thinks you're evil.
I'm voting for that because of the like gaslit wife aftermath scenario.
Yeah.
Where either she realizes that she killed you and that haunts her, or she spends every waking day being like, Kevin?
Did I kill the right one?
Yeah.
Do you guys think I should go wake up Lauren and ask her what she would do in this situation?
Yes, absolutely. You should do that.
Get her on the show right now. Do it right now.
I'll send her a text.
Okay.
That's a clean sweep, by the way. I'm voting for that too.
Okay. It's
a lot
good
of clean
have that on the
sweeps
record.
thus far here in round 2. And by that I mean 2.
But it means it's going to set
2,
up some very difficult matchups. Yeah.
Final 4, yeah.
We have accidentally taking a bullet for Hitler, or accidentally buried alive. The two accidentallys meet up here in the.
You're just a big klutz.
Yeah,
You're really doing it this time.
Oh boy.
I think out of principle, I gotta vote for taking a bullet for Hitler. I think that, like,
here's the thing: if we assume the implications of, like, do you want the Holocaust to happen or not, then this is just gonna win, and we don't have to do the rest of the bracket. So we have to, right?
I think you're right, Pat, which is why I'm more considering it on the point of like you foiled the most intricate intelligence-based assassination operation in like the history of the world. Like I'm more taking it on that front of like you bumbling idiot ruined months and years of prep work.
I think the humiliation of feeling like the biggest jackass alive would honestly outweigh, however long it takes you to die in the coffin while you're buried.
And, like the Nazis are probably like propping you up as a hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this guy took a bullet for the Führer. He was a,
Your legacy is so bad.
You're propaganda now.
Yeah. Oof, I hadn't even considered that.
That's true. Be like Pat. Take one for the team of Nazis.
That said,
I'm gonna pull that quote and just email it to you.
That said, it's one shot, lights out, probably, as opposed to being accidentally buried alive.
I don't think so.
There's only like one place you can get shot where you instantly die.
You take like a bullet to the chest, and then you realize that bullet was meant for Hitler.
I mean, unless he's just like sitting in a cafe and you're just walking across the street and you're just like, why?
Yeah. That's what I'm picturing.
You don't even know Hitler's there. Like you just happen to be like walking through the line of fire.
I'm sort of picturing you're like a German citizen that's lived under this rule, and you're like, you know what? Today is the frickin' day. I'm gonna stand up to power, and you're the unexpected variable in the intricate plan that sends it all awry, and then you feel like a real dingus.
I still think it's worse if you're like a time traveler, because then you know what it means. You know what I mean?
That's
to
true.
Have,
and
like,
the long record of history.
But then there's also the third option here, which is it's like 1932, and you're just some dude like walking across the street, and you're just like, what have I done?
Well, I mean,
yeah, so that wouldn't be so bad because
getting buried alive would be so terrible, and accidentally. So like no one even knows, and you're just scratching and scrambling and scrounging around in there trying to get out.
I still don't understand the precursor to how you would get buried alive.
We just went over this whole thing. Like you get hit on the head, they think you're dead.
How do they think you're dead? You're like, I'm not, and they're like, that's what a dead person would say, though. Like, I don't understand.
I think where my brain was initially when reading this was that the intention, one way or the other, was on the person buried. Right? So like you could intentionally bury yourself alive or accidentally bury yourself alive.
And that too
is where
that's included in the cornucopia of options. Right, you're like digging a hole, and then you've got like a backhoe, and you somehow end up getting covered by all the dirt.
Here's how I see it. And here's how I see this playing out. You're the intern at the mortuary. So nobody's really met you yet, except for
the mortuaries have
head.
Interns.
Absolutely, people who are super interested in the industry.
What college credit are you getting for that internship?
Mortuary school. Shut up. You trip and hit your head on the coffin and fall in, and then Dr. Winglebottom walks up and is like, oh, well, this is clearly a fully formaldehyded body that is in the coffin. The lid popped open because of some...
That's pretty insulting, frankly.
So I'm just going to shut the lid because clearly the idiot intern, who I haven't met yet, who I'm supposed to meet at lunch, left this open. So I'm going to shut the lid, and then you get buried, and you wake up. That's how I'm seeing this accidentally happening.
That's
is
plausible.
Through some sort of... Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it happens at least once a
That's a
week?
very loose use of plausible.
Can you imagine if the rate of that happening to mortuary interns was once a week?
Oh my god. For me, this comes down to the framing of taking the bullet for Hitler. I think if you are a person who goes back in time, aware of Hitler's evils, and then you are shot, and then see that you kept Hitler alive, I think that is worse than being buried alive.
That's worst case scenario amongst the ambit of ways in which this could play out.
I think if it's like the more likely scenario where you just a random passerby in 1932, as you said, and you just get shot instead, then that is not nearly as bad as being buried alive.
But in your first example, you are the protagonist in an episode of Black Mirror. Like, that's bad. You don't want to be that person.
I'm voting buried alive. I'm voting accidentally buried alive.
Daniel, what's your vote?
I am also going to vote for buried alive. I think the ceiling on how bad the Hitler bullet can be is worse. But I think, like, percentage-wise, buried alive is worse.
While my nightmares lead me to vote for buried alive, I will give a meaningless pity vote, the old-fashioned MPV to the taking a bullet for Hitler.
Being the propaganda for the Reich
that's tough.
Is tough.
Yeah. If I had nightmares about accidentally taking a bullet for Hitler, I would seek help. That is an oddly specific thing to be afraid of.
You know what's going to be great when someone puts this on to like listen to a podcast to go to sleep, because it's like Drafted. My friends, they usually talk about such wholesome things. Like I listen to Drafted a lot of times. I'll save episodes up before I have to fly, as I have a big fear of flying. Love it. Sure. Nothing better than Drafted up in the air, sweet. Lowering the anxiety. It's great. Do you imagine if you put this episode on for that?
And then you have dreams about the kind of shit we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. For the people that are dreaming, you're falling.
Don't do that.
Wake up.
Don't do that. Don't fuck with people's dreams. That's not cool.
I'm going to make them late for work.
I will point out, Pat didn't have anything about, he has skydiving, but no, crashing planes or anything. avoiding his own worst fears.
That's a good point, because he listens to it on the plane. So now let's give a direct message to Pat, listening to this 3 months from now on his trip to Philadelphia. Pat, everything's going to be fine. That turbulence is a very natural thing, and whenever you think the plane's going down, just think about Sully. If a very average pilot can land it in the water, presumably the rest of them can do it too.
Do you think I fly to Philadelphia from New York?
That's a great point. I don't know. Do you guys have transit up there? We don't do that kind of shit down here.
To Philadelphia for, where are college ultimate nationals this year?
It is actually wild, just to mention this for a second, that watching the movie Sully made me way more comfortable with flying. Because I'm like, pretty much any pilot can land this in the water.
No joke, I think about that every time I fly.
Right? I'm like...
Yeah, like worst case scenario, we're probably going to be okay.
We just do a Sully, and then it's fine.
You don't think the fact that that guy became such a hero that they made a whole movie about him makes it seem like a pretty unlikely thing that he did it?
But he was sort of such a hero because he was like a regular guy. Like he was an experienced pilot.
He wasn't he wasn't Top Gun, you know?
He didn't have like 30 confirmed kills or something like that. He was just like a regular ass dude.
Can you imagine when you're walking in to the plane and you're like the pilot and like, the staff is greeting you and the pilot is just usually some dude who looks like a sitcom dad or whatever, but instead it's a guy with like neck tats of like 30 confirmed kills and he's chain smoking and he's just like, there were 6 MiGs over Kandahar.
All right.
We're out of Diet Coke today, so the airline apologizes, ladies and gentlemen. You're gonna have to make do with what we've got.
That would add a little bit of adventure, I think, to the flying process. Okay, I alluded to it here. We do have our final matchup of the Elite Eight. We have first time skydiving versus choking on your favorite food.
Well, clearly I have to go skydiving because
I think it's skydiving. I mean, not to spoil too much in the Patreon, for the Patreon only listeners, but I'm not spoiling, but you know what I mean. Giving away too much. I didn't think choking to death on your favorite food would be that bad. It's kind of like you're going out enjoying one of your favorite things in the entire world. So yeah, I think it's
that you're not really enjoying it, but
right?
Okay.
Well, you were up to that point.
Your joy has turned to ash in your mouth,
Sure, but right before that, I was eating my favorite food in the world.
Well, we also got into, and I do think is an important question here to reiterate, is like, so Dan, you said your favorite food was steak.
Yeah.
You die eating steak. You think your parents are going to be cool, like, eating steak the next day?
You've ruined that for everybody.
I don't care. I'm dead.
Fair enough.
Wow. Real sensitive of you, huh? Jeez Louise.
I am still voting. I am still voting for skydiving because of how bullshit it would be. To be like, I'm overcoming my fears. I'm doing it. Like, this is my fight song. All right, let's go. You're gonna hear me roar, world, and then just like splat.
You should have included on your list, Pat, dying to the song "Fight Song," just like in any situation. This is my fight.
I think all of America did in 2016.
That's true. We all died at least a little. I am voting for the dying by choking on your favorite food.
I am begging for the end of the show though. Like I would take one of these means of death just to get the end of this episode right now.
Wow, but keep listening, listeners. Definitely don't turn it off now.
We got big news at the end. We don't. Don't stick around for that.
I just it's hot in my room right now. I'm starting to get sweaty.
We could take a drink break. We could take a little hydration break.
No. That'll only make it go longer. Okay?
What do you got going on after this?
I'm going to take a shower.
Hell yeah.
And stop talking about ways of dying. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Semifinals. Here we are. We made it to the final four. We've made it to the bitter end. Nearly. We have bees. And we have the whole maniacal evil clone twin scenario where our wife kills us instead of our identical villain.
Oh my god.
This is where we have to address the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man, not the bees scenario.
I was
right?
hoping we wouldn't have to. I was hoping we wouldn't have to address it, but you're right.
Does he make it out of that okay? I've not seen the movie.
No, he certainly does not. What do we think, Pat?
For a vote?
Yeah, I mean, just do you have thoughts? Like, what's going through your brain right now?
What's going through my brain right now? Honestly, what was going through my brain right now was thinking, like, man, it would be way worse for me to die because of the bees, but it would be way worse for my wife to have to live with having shot me and or the, gaslighting evil twin,
the
situation.
aforementioned gaslighting.
I think in the spirit of this draft, which is a little self-centered, worst ways to die, I think I'm going to go with bees because there's just so many ways it could be bees,
I'm going with the emotional torture of the clone twin situation.
So I have to split the vote
I just think
here.
that's so much worse than physical pain.
You're a sensitive guy, Preston.
I mean, I'd like to think so.
I'm with Pat. I think ultimately the bigger victim of the evil clone twin scenario is your wife. And
maybe I just care about the people around me more than the two of you.
More than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
There are way more ways that the bee death is worse than the outcome that happens to the wife in the twin scenario.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I think a lot of this, we're not touching this much. I think a lot of this comes down to what your post-death beliefs are. Like if you believe that after you die you're kind of still around and can see your evil clone or twin, then
banging your wife,
full life with your wife, all the while you can do nothing about it. And let's think about the scenario where they make her happier. You know what I mean? She killed the wrong person and it ended up being the best thing she ever did. And you're just being John Malkovich for the whole thing. You're just front row,
Oh my
front row
God.
seat. That would be worse. But I don't believe any of that. So I think bees is the worst way to die.
Okay.
What do you think happens when we die, Preston?
I don't know. I also don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that I'll be observing it through some being John Malkovich situation. But I still think the moment of there is nothing about me that made me is more horrifying than any sense of pain. Not having an identity and being a cog in the system is more... just floating on the stupid-ass little rock in space is more existentially terrifying than being stung by a bunch of bees.
Okay, but imagine that you're floating on a rock in space, being true, but also there's bees around.
There's bees there.
Here's my counter to the cog in the system thing. If you're not a cog in any system in that scenario, right? You're just a thing that's alive. Here's the better way to explain
having
a thing that lives after that's put in you or whatever. That is more cog in the system than what you're saying is.
No, I agree. I think I said it wrong. Here's the thing then. It's that the person you've spent the most time with, who's also a friend of the show, shout out to Lauren for having to make this very crucial decision of whether to kill me or my evil twin. The person you've spent the most amount of time with,
just pointing the gun back and forth. You're both I'm the real Preston. You gotta do it.
And the idea that she can't identify you restructures your entire mental idea of what a person is.
What would you do?
I just thought of something fucked up. Why is she shooting to kill in this situation? If she's not sure.
Pat has decided it.
Shoot to incapacitate, right? Just end
because
just end
actions
the grappling.
Have consequences, Daniel. Pat has decided it.
We can invent some situation where it's if she there's a button that if the button gets pressed, it'll be game over. So even if she shoots to incapacitate, the guy can just press the button on his chest and it'll.
Or we just go into some weirdly contentious polygamy situation because I don't think I would get along with me very well. I think there'd be a lot of bad energy.
Not to draw this out for another 40 minutes, but what would you do to try to convince
Please.
Lauren that
you
were the real you?
If it was a clone or if it was a twin?
I'm imagining you would start singing, and then the other one would start singing, and you'd like harmonize, and you'd be like, "Wait a minute, we can work this whole thing out," and then she'd shoot both of you.
No, but this is the thing. Okay, what you just said was actually very profound. The decision to harmonize is the actual rub, because the person who takes the melody has a certain feeling, and the person to harmonize has a certain feeling. And it would be my decision to harmonize over the other inferior Preston's decision to take the melody that would clue her in that I'm me.
Do you think she would know that?
No.
All right, I'm still voting bees.
Okay, bees makes it to the final. But I think Preston voted
probably
for bees
best
as well.
for the sake of time that didn't make it into the final, because we would have talked about it for another half hour.
My God. Okay, so what will face bees in the final matchup? Will be being buried alive or first time skydiving?
Buried alive.
I think it's buried alive just for a time thing.
I think it's buried alive too for a clean sweep. First time skydiving, there's some joy you take in that. There's no thrill in being buried alive.
There's not any joy.
There's joy until you figure out it's not going to work.
I would get a little.
I mean, you at least get halfway down, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
I would get a little satisfaction about like, I knew it. I knew to be afraid of this.
I goddamn knew it.
This practice was weird.
Right? Yeah.
I told those motherfuckers I didn't want to do this.
Right. Now, won't they feel bad? They deserve it. Thinks.
Yeah, I just think like the time to be upset about it is the key factor here, and it's much smaller in skydiving death than buried alive, right?
And like in accidentally buried alive, it's like they're like all solemn, like around your grave, like, well, he's in a better place right now. He's at peace, you know. He's at rest. Meanwhile, cut to 10 feet below, and you're just
Yeah, that woodpecker on the nearby tree sure is going crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
He's camouflaged. I can't even see him.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sets us up for the final matchup. We have death by bees or death by being accidentally buried alive. What do we think, boys?
I can kick us off here. My personal nightmare since I was like 7 years old has been
Should we
buried
analyze
alive.
that? Why is this since you were 7? Why were you having dreams about death when you were 7?
Can I tell you a weird story actually about that?
What movie did you watch that your parents did not let you watch?
I went and told my father one time when I was 9 years old or so that I had a dream that I was crawling through pipe. And I think I had just watched Shawshank Redemption. I think that's what made me think of this.
Far too young to be watching that movie.
Oh, yeah. But I was crawling through pipe, and the pipe got tighter and tighter, and then I couldn't move, and then I died in that spot where I got stuck. And he told me, he was like, it's really weird that you say that, because my first job out of college was sealing different sections of pipe by crawling through them on a little piece of wood that had wheels on it, and he got stuck one time. Like, that was an actual situation that happened to him. And it was this weird moment of like,
did he die?
You, like, pass that dream to me? No, he didn't die because he grew up enough to have me as a child, which is why I'm here. I understand you don't quite know how that works, but we'll get there someday.
I've also met
but it was this weird moment of like, did you pass this anxiety to me in this weird like genetic sense? But anyways, that's why I'm afraid of being buried alive. He got pulled out by his coworker, just like he's on a little board, like a little skateboard with wheels basically, and he just got yanked backwards.
Easy fix. Nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah. In the Shawshank Redemption moment, like, I don't know how he understands that pipe is going to be able to fit him, having never seen it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think isn't the implication in Shawshank that he's like done the whole route?
How has he done the route? He's only cracking the pipe for the first time in that scene where the lightning is coming down and it's making the thunder. And that's so he hasn't cracked the pipe before. So he doesn't. He could
have mapped out the whole pipe.
Yeah, but he can only see the part of the pipe that he sees, and he crawled in the pipe for Morgan Freeman says like 1.5 miles or something like that.
That's probably an exaggeration.
That literally not even
effect.
the scene of him doing that. It's Morgan Freeman saying the distance at which he crawled in the pipe is the thing that gives me nightmares. Like the idea of crawling through a pipe like that for that long.
Listen, I think if you're crawling through a manure pipe, like 100 yards would feel like a mile and a half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think it's like classic. I think it's classic fishing tale. It wasn't a mile and a half.
I'm also very claustrophobic. We tried to go to Ruby Falls in Tennessee, which some people in this area of Atlanta might know is like a nice tourist trap. And we went down the elevator into Ruby Falls. We took 3 steps off, and I looked at my wife as a full-grown man, and I was like, we have to go. And the first thing they do when you get down there is they take you to a tiny little cavern in the cave, and they show you a video about how Ruby Falls was discovered. And it was discovered by a man who crawled through a cave that was only about, a foot wide, and he just weaseled his way into Ruby Falls. And I was like, we have to leave right now or I'm going to pass out. So I'm just not good at stuff like this.
So what I'm hearing is you're going to vote Buried Alive, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Dan, do you have an equally sort of insightful and revelatory anecdote about bees?
About bees.
To kind of counterbalance that?
Yeah, one time I went on vacation.
Where?
Bees killed my whole family. I hid under the motel bed.
Yeah, I went on
They
vacation.
got the rest.
To this place called what's another precious gemstone? All I can think of is garnet. Garnet Springs. Went to Garnet Springs and watched this video and learned about how this guy was.
I don't know why, but I feel like I'm being made fun of right now.
This guy he was
think
diving.
That's not the case, but here we are.
He was diving in the caves and was attacked by underwater bees, and I was like, I can't be here right now. We gotta leave. Yeah. People forget about the underwater bee varieties.
Mm-hmm.
People don't talk about them.
It's bad enough that they're in the air.
No, I don't have any traumatic stories about that. I do have some like interesting stories about people dying in caves, but for Preston's sake, I won't share those here.
Please, Jesus Christ, Dan.
What's your vote?
Yeah, I think. Oh man, this is gonna take the sting out of the vote for Preston here. I think it's Buried Alive. I think bees is more painful, but just the time to think that you would have while having been buried alive would just be the worst.
It could just be a bee stinging you like every minute until you died. For like in 2 years.
Well, no, it's specifically bees. It's not.
That's what I'm saying. Bees only have one sting in them, so it'd have to be a new bee every time. It could just be like one sting for every minute for years.
Like the entire population of bees has it out for you, but they don't come in a swarm. They sort of come one at a time. That's what you're saying.
It's unlimited possibilities for bees.
Wow.
The bees swarm you, but don't sting you. They instead use their legs to grab you, but there's so many of them. Mm-hmm. That they're able to overpower you. Okay, they take you to this. They fly you to this table that they've built. They've spent years building a table, mostly out of honeycomb, but it's strong enough to support your weight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They then strap you in with vines and such, other natural rope, hemp perhaps,
honey adhesive
honey adhesive.
Sure.
They glue you in.
Very sticky. Yeah.
You're stuck there. They just take like one per hour, stinging you.
Right.
Stinging you.
Oh my God.
Stinging you until
Sounds
you die.
Bad.
And I think that's equally as likely as just a swarm of bees stinging you enough times that you die in 30 seconds.
Yeah, equally as likely that they pick you up and fly.
So I think it has to be
somewhere
considered
else.
in this vote. I think it has to be considered.
Well, so Buried Alive wins. I am gonna throw my vote for bees.
Okay, wait, though. If you killed the same amount of bees that it took to kill you, would you feel good about that? Isn't it good that they're winning? They need to save the planet.
Here's the thing, especially if they do it my way. And it's not true that all bees can only sting once. That's not true. But like, if we're going with that, then like you're still killing a shitload of bees. You're still killing a shitload of bees. Because like when they sting you and they lose their stinger, they then die.
Sure. I don't like creepy crawly things.
So like, not only are they killing you, but like a lot of bees are dying in order to kill you. So you're not like a bee hero by any means.
Oh no, I just really don't want to get killed by a bunch of bees. I think really what it comes down to for me. No, I mean I think okay. This is it's a final battle of the sort of like unknown sort of terror and horror of nature versus the folly of man. And I think at the end of the day, it's the unknown terror and horror of unbridled nature that I'm voting for here. I'm a little more comfortable, I think, with the folly of man being what gets me.
Yeah. See, I think I would take some slight comfort in knowing that nature got one back on us, even if it was at my expense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's just a time thing. Unless the bees do my whole drawn out thing where they, strap you down and slowly.
I mean, they could suffocate you within your own skin by just like sealing up all your pores or whatever. Like there's a lot of ways this could go.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways they could kill you.
Do you breathe through your skin?
Don't you?
We all do.
Oh. I wasn't aware I was supposed to be doing that. I'll work on it.
Aren't we all?
You're getting rid of like urea and stuff in your excretions.
My what?
My urethra?
Huh? That's another place they could go.
Anyhow, that brings us to the end. Buried alive, accidentally buried alive. I should clarify.
That accidentally is doing a lot of work.
A lot of work.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Officially drafted's worst way of dying. Pat, what can we say? Thank you so much, I guess, for coming on the show, bringing us the idea and every option here on the bracket. You did all the work for us.
We talked a lot about death tonight, fellas.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that really this was a celebration of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is something you could say. Yeah.
Listen, I think you have to have a sense of humor about death, or you're just going to be like, living scared your whole life.
I'm thinking about the listeners to this show, and I think many of them fall into the camp that every episode that Pat does is their favorite one because it's signals
this will be a real
the
test
end
of that,
of the
won't
world,
it?
right? Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then the other 89% of people say when Pat comes on the show, I usually listen at 2 times speed just to make sure I don't miss any references or something like that. What I would invite the listeners to consider is how you cater to both of those audiences, right? And like how we let this maniacal, thought-provoking wordsmith into our house to make us confront our own demons, and how that maybe is hard on us.
And please just remember that our idea was to do best one-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders, which is probably going to end up being Macarena, so maybe we don't even really
No,
have to
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we'll wait for that. Pat, in the meantime, if the people do want to catch you elsewhere, where can the kind folks do that?
I actually have some breaking news here.
Whoa!
Really?
So, Sin the Fields, the show that Tad Whistle and I do, Frisbee Podcast, still on hiatus. However, I am doing a sort of mini-series short-run podcast on the Ultiworld Podcast Network with Lindsay Sue, who listeners will know, and then another person, Brian Kibler, about the history of the Rochester Dragons, a doomed semi-professional sports team from Rochester, New York, that in many ways embodied the feckless boomtown optimism of the late Obama years. So look out for that. That's going to be coming in a couple months. I think even if you don't care about Frisbee at all.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds like something that could transcend the ultimate audience.
Yeah.
For sure.
What feed is it going to be on, Pat?
It'll be on Ultiworld's, all of Ultiworld stuff. But if you can,
what's the name of
follow,
the podcast though?
TBD.
We have a name. It hasn't totally cleared legal yet. But stay tuned for more. If you follow Sin the Fields on Twitter, we'll be posting about it there shortly. But that'll be coming sometime early summer.
I will say, as someone who has heard stories about this unbelievable narrative of the Rochester Dragons, anybody who cares about, like, if you listen to Malcolm Gladwell's podcast because you find it interesting, this is one that will work for you because it's so absolutely dumb. Like,
it's nothing to do with Frisbee.
Wild.
What it does have to do is with a man from Buffalo buying a semi-professional sports team on Craigslist for $5,000 and it bankrupting him to the extent that he had to become a long-haul truck driver. That is something that it involves.
It is absolutely insane. It is a story about the failure of the American dream. So if you're interested in that, maybe give it a listen.
Yeah, I am intrigued by that, actually. I will at least listen to the
sounds
first
so
episode
good.
for sure. Yeah, it sounds
so good.
Pat, man, thank you so much for coming, though. Guys, do go give Sin the Fields a follow. Even if they never come back, you'll at least want to know when, this new Pat project is dropping. That sounds incredible. And, of course, always hit us up with the Discord. Pat is in there. You can tell him, why he was correct in picking bees over Buried Alive. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. The TikTok is a different handle than everything else. I think it's The Drafted Podcast. Is that right, Preston?
I didn't mean to make it such. But let me look real quick and I will let you know.
I'm pretty sure it is. We're Drafted Pod everywhere else, but The Drafted Podcast on TikTok.
I think Drafted Pod was taken by a bunch of hooligans.
Oh, okay. Pat, can we sue them?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, that'll be updated. We'll have an update on our lawsuit against Drafted Pod on TikTok.
Yeah, it is the Drafted Podcast, and I will say, TikTok is a really great way for us to get some more people. So please, I know Daniel doesn't want to, and I totally get that and I respect that.
I'm still liking the videos, so
go support us and give us a follow and give us a like because it actually is the thing we are getting the most exposure on right now.
Wait, are you making videos out of this?
Yeah,
but don't worry, we won't show the people that you were actually wearing a weird MAGA hat this whole time. I'll make sure to edit that out somehow. Yeah,
we can doctor it. But Pat, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. We will be gone next week because I am celebrating my birthday in Atlanta with Preston, so we will come on board over the weekend. But
where was my invite?
Do you want to come?
It got lost in the USPS.
We're playing disc golf the whole time.
Wow, I see how it is.
Do you want to come? I mean, surprise is in Atlanta. I wouldn't be mad about it.
All right, if I can overcome my fear of flying, I might get down there.
You got a place to stay if you can make it here.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. But yeah, so we will be taking a break, 1 week break probably, and then be back with our normal episode draft structure. So we hope you guys have enjoyed the March Draftness. You still have a little bit of time when you hear this episode to take advantage of that madness discount on our merch page. Be sure to get that March Draftness t-shirt. It looks real nice. But yeah, we will talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks so much for listening.